Good evening, this is Pine Leaf Needles, and welcome to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And today, we have a lot of news. With me tonight are Andang,
Hey, everybody.
Mystery,
Hey there.
Brax,
Hello again.
and Etheros.
Hello.
I see
You
it's nice.
It's a bit
nice.
early.
A bit early, yes, I guess in Wales. It depends whether it's early or late, depends on your point of view.
1:30. Yeah.
Very well, we'll begin straight into the news. The biggest bit is that on Monday, some of you might be hearing this after Monday, Turbine will be releasing 11.3. So therefore the servers will be down Monday morning from 7 to noon. They'll put in the new patch, and I know of two things that they are adding to it. First, the simple matter is that they'll hope to have some good fixes to mounted combat lag, of course, until it's actually on live and people are trying to run with it. We probably won't know how successful they were.
I think somewhere they put that the most recent thing that they implemented told them what it wasn't. So they told them what wasn't causing the lag.
I believe they've done that before as well. Put like something that confirms what it's not.
Right,
Yes.
but just the other day, I think Sapiens posted somewhere about that. So thought that was
Yes,
pretty funny.
But they thought that they have done a few things that they hope will improve it, and they'll put in some more diagnostics, and hopefully eventually they'll get rid of all the lag that's involved in mounted combat, probably around the time we reach Mordor.
Or right before the game gets shut down like 20 years from now.
Yes. But the bigger item are Bounder's Bounties. And there was a big developer diary on this on LOTRO where they talk about this latest item. This is a server-wide event, a worldwide event that everybody participates in, or at least those who wish to participate. Though in some ways you probably can't miss it much because whenever you kill a creature, they'll be dropping Bounder's tokens. Whenever you get a loot box, you might get some Bounder's tokens. Whenever you open a Hobbit present, you might get some Bounder's tokens. Whenever you say hello to Hobbit, okay.
I hope those go into my barter wallet.
Yeah, they've got to go into the barter wallet. I can't see any other way of handling this.
Yeah,
And
I think it's a really interesting concept that they have going here, where isn't this the first type of thing where you're going to have possibly different content on different servers because of different stages of the players working through?
I heard they did something like this in Oregon before, back in like 2008.
yes, yeah, collecting ring lore in Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was before I had a cap level character, so therefore I never really understood exactly what was going on that. Actually, I think it was worldwide, though. I think some of the stuff was, because I think I do remember one or two drops on the matter.
Okay.
But in this case, it'll be worldwide drops, and they say most likely also Festival Quest will also might be giving some, and I presume the Farmer's Fair must be starting soon.
If they
it was-
mentioned that, you'd think that there's something coming soon that's a festival, so yeah, I think it's coming
Yeah.
soon.
At the time of this recording, there was a recent lottery for Farmers Fair tokens, or
Yes,
whatever
there
the
was
tokens
that.
are called. So yeah, that would indicate that it'll be coming soon.
Yes, we are all hoping that that will come soon. And the idea is that when you collect 50 of these tokens, you could bring them to the statue in Milkle Delving, where Meg Proudfoot will collect them and advance you with some deeds.
So, is there any particular reason why they chose a zone to go back to so far on the other side of the world?
Oh, because the statue there apparently is getting old, and the whole thing is a fundraiser for their statue.
And there is actually a sort of in law article they created alongside the dev diary for it, open letter from the bounders. I thought it was quite amusing.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that that's going on, but you know, they could make the same type of thing in Rohan or somewhere else. It just seems kind of weird that they're doing
I
this to
suppose they
such an
wanted it
early
to be a
area.
bit cutesy, and you
Yeah.
can't really get more cutesy than hobbits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were thinking that maybe someplace like Archit or Adso might be, so we
Yeah,
could finally
Archit
finish
Aid
building
really
this
needs
in.
this project. I would like to mention though that it's interesting that they're able to do this for specific servers. I think it'd be cool to see more server stuff. I think it'd be really cool though if they added this kind of mechanic in for kinships, so you could get like let's say when an expansion launches, you get certain things and your kinship eventually can unlock not like raid level gear, but something in between. I think that would be pretty awesome.
All right.
So I think it'd be kind of neat if they gave like the first server to get the bounder unlocked, if they gave them some kind of a title or something. Everybody on the
Yeah,
server.
yeah, that would be cool.
I've already started trash talking Landreval, so Winfo is going to win.
No,
We'll see.
no. But there's going to
Wonderful
be
is
one
pretty
that
big
beats
on
us all,
these.
and it's the mighty Brandywine.
No, it's not. It's Arkenstone.
There's too many people on Brandywine.
Oh, poor
I'm
Arkenstone.
for Landerville, but there's just too many people on Brandywine. I'd be surprised.
Landval
Yeah,
is pretty
but
big on these kind of event stuff, though.
That is true,
I
and
could
it's
see
in an
them
earlier
organizing
area.
things.
So that's the one advantage is that it's in the Shire and not Rohan, because we'd lose if it's in Rohan.
As far as the turn-in mechanic, though, I'm kind of surprised they're having us go back to an NPC to turn stuff in after they changed everything so that you can just right-click it and get rid of it.
Yeah, really weird.
I think it's because they want to make it feel like it's a
Well, I mean, part
It's
of
an
it's so that
event.
you can actually get your gear as well.
yeah. That's where the vendors will be.
so
Right.
on the post on Lottery Players that Pineleaf you wrote,
Yeah.
yes, you wrote, you've got that really cool picture of the horse there.
Yeah.
Now, do you use those bounder tokens to buy that horse, or is that TP that you get a horse with? Do you know?
I do not know what currency is probably not TP because if they did that, the players would be up in arms.
Yeah,
I
just
would
like
s-
Lalia's Market.
Yeah. My guess is that it'll either be. I'd say it's most likely going to be Bounders tokens. I'm
It'll be a
say
lot of them.
80% of them. Yeah, I would say 80%
Yeah.
likely, and that you have to unlock your deeds first though in order just to get access to it.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
But
that's good, but I do like that horse. Sorry, I know it's probably not important, but I do like that horse.
No, I like the horse too, Mist. I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a nice hunter's horse.
Yeah, there were a
Yeah.
lot of people commenting that they really liked this horse, so I
Yeah,
think
in
at the
fact,
very
that's
least that's a good motivation to get him to get involved in this event.
I
that's
am
the most
glad
common.
that they actually put the horse, or according looking at the screenshot, they actually put the horse in game so people can look at it before they buy it. Because
Yeah.
some of like the festival horses, they don't always show what the horse looks like in game.
Well, we'll have to see, but that looks like a screenshot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. But I actually like that lantern that they got it on the back there because that actually looks quite nice.
Hmm.
For some reason they have an hourglass, or what looks like an hourglass on it. I'm
Yeah,
not sure
yeah, you're right.
what use the Hobbit has for that.
They're trying to figure out
Yeah.
how long it takes to get back to Bree.
Yeah, they're trying to
Well,
figure out how long it takes the servers to get things done. That's what they're trying to figure out.
Right.
Well, I was going to say it's to figure out how long Angdang's going to be at lunch.
Ah, all right. Now, the other item is that once a server reaches their goal, then from the time they reach their goal until Helm's Deep is released, everyone on the server will receive the Bounder's Boon, which is +1 hope, +5% relic forging critical success rate, plus 5% out of combat run speed, I know whoopee, and plus 2% on damage. And one comment I put in my article is, I can only hope they disable that in the Moors.
Yeah. Because, I mean, while it doesn't look like much of a buff, you know, it's not exactly a good point to start from.
So is that a permanent buff though? So you use it once and then after it's cooled down you use it again, or is it a one-off?
I think it's a worldwide buff.
Yeah, it's a worldwide buff, similar to the buff that you get when... what does activate
Welcome
the
back
buff
weekend,
we get?
for example.
It's an Innuminos when you defeat.
Yeah, I was going
those,
to say, if you're in a Numinos, it does that as well.
Yeah, you defeat the certain number of high-level mobs, I think, and then all of Evendom Zone gets a buff.
Well, there's also one for all the world when certain things happen in the Moors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watchful Peace or something like that.
Yes. And that gives all sorts of fun little bonuses, including an experience bonus, and I can't remember what else.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so this Bounder's Bounty or whatever thing, that's just all the time? There's no cutoff date that we know of?
It stops with Helm's Deep, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So
All right.
heaps of time to get the horse.
Well, that depends on how long it takes them before they release Helm's Deep.
Yep, and it depends on how long this thing actually takes to grind out and how long the drops come and all that stuff. So
So
Yeah.
that's kind of encouraging, right? Doesn't that tend to make you believe that Turbine believes Helm's Deep isn't all that far off?
Yeah, I suppose.
Or it could be a thing to tide us over till Helm's Deep comes out a long time from now.
I was about to say more likely just to keep us entertained until it does.
So I don't
Because
think they wouldn't put something out there that has no end in sight as far as buffs for the entire server.
I'm still in the mindset that Helm's Deep will probably come out at the end of this year, especially after the amount of news that we got this week, which we'll get into.
All right. Now, does anyone else have anything to cover on this before we go to the 20 questions?
no, I'll shut up now.
20.
Yes, the 20 question. Oh, wait a minute. I'm reading the... Don't worry. Yes. Why did I have that still up there? Oh, yes, that's right. It's the Twitter chat. Yes. Duh.
Yep.
I got the wrong... Yes, the Twitter chat on the class changes.
Yep, there were 41 questions, which is just amazing. I think that's the most questions Turbine's ever answered at one time, aside from like a high-end interview or something like that.
Yes, in other words, people didn't know when to stop asking questions.
Yep, and we actually had one of our very own who's in this call as the number one question. So if you want to go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that was, imagine my surprise when I'm sitting at work and 10 minutes early, not only do questions start flowing through my Twitter feed, but mine is the first one that I see. So I asked a question, and it was really asked in several different forms on the forum, but I asked a question about whether the current virtues and traits would be incorporated into the new system at all. And they answered exactly really with the information that I was looking for, which was more along the lines of what was going to happen to the virtues, because we kind of assumed, I think, that the traits were going to be incorporated into the system and maybe changed around, but we never heard anything about the virtues. So what they said was that the virtues will remain mostly the same, which I think is probably a good thing, because so many people have ground so much time into getting those virtues up.
I have to wonder what they mean by mostly now, though.
Yeah. Well, there might be one or two tweaks because some of the old items might be irrelevant after the changes.
That's true. It'll be interesting to see if it'll still be limited by 5. I mean, they essentially have the ability to change just about anything they want, so...
Yeah, so that was fun to see that come through, and I think I was glad with the answer because now I don't have to. One of the things I was going to do was just stop grinding for virtues if I wasn't going to need them.
Well, at the very least, based on some of the other answers, you'd want to finish your deeds so that you at least have more trait points to spend on your various abilities.
Yep. Which is a smart way to incorporate deeds back into the system, I think. I think that's a cool way to do it.
All right. And does anyone else here have a favorite question and answer?
I'm going to go ahead and say question 20.
Nah.
Question 20. Oh, yes, that's
that
the
was
one with the
specific
hunter.
examples. Yeah, those were good.
Yep.
I was surprised to see that many specifics in this chat, actually.
Yeah, so basically what they said is, can you give specific examples of specializations? And the devs said that the hunter can choose between the bowmaster or the huntsman. The huntsman has less range but can induct on the move, whereas the bowmaster has much greater range but must plant his feet to deal damage.
Now, note they did clarify later that each of the classes are getting 3 specializations. They just wanted to show a contrast on these two for that particular example.
There was
Right.
a bit of a
They also-
misunderstanding.
Yeah, they also talked about the yellow line for hunters further down in the chat, and we were assuming that that's also the trapper line.
Right.
Yeah.
And that they are buffing traps.
So, assuming that the other classes get changed in a similar way, what are your guys' thoughts on the way that the hunter's set up? What do you think?
Well, actually, I think related to this is the clarification they gave with the burglar example they gave later on the forums.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was pretty
Let
big.
me read that.
Big one. Yeah, they mentioned
okay.
certain skills.
Yes.
And
Right. Each class has a pool of general skills, skills which we feel are important to all 3 specialization lines, and more specific skills. How you choose to invest your traits will have an impact on what skills are available to you. I'll use the burglar as an example. Please bear in mind some of the specific skills I'm mentioning are new, and we'll discuss their impact at a later time. Some general skills every burglar will eventually have access to include, but are not limited to, riddle, subtle stab, double-edged strike, reveal weakness, and hide in plain sight. Now, if I choose to specialize as a gambler, I'll immediately gain access to Lucky Strike and Hedge Your Bet. From here, I could completely fill the gambler tree, picking up skills such as Gambler's Advantage, Trip, and All In, or I could choose to not invest in all my points in the Gambler to pick up the Stun Dust from the Quiet Knife line and Trick, Dust in the Eyes from the Mischief Maker line. Though Dust in the Eyes right now, I don't think too many people love that one. So
I have not too experienced with the burglar, but isn't Stun Dust like an item consumable?
yeah, many of the consumable items have been turned into skills.
Yeah, so they're not just doing it with traps then, they might be using other ones too.
Oh,
Interesting.
yes.
So, is All In a skill already for burglars? Because that sounds really interesting.
I don't have a skill by that name, and I just turned 85 today, so...
Okay, that skill just sounds awesome, so...
Yeah,
So I
it
think
sounds
the
like
one-
definitely gambler line, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, going back to the hunter, since I'm a little more familiar with that one. I think the one bad thing Turbine did by using this specific example is that it sounds like you can either be one or the other. And there was a lot of question from especially people who play other classes after the chat about what does it mean to go with a hybrid tree approach instead. And it's unclear to me how that would work with a huntsman and bowmaster hybrid.
Right.
I presume that what happens is that you'll have traits and skills that make you either improve your range or in one line or allow you mobility in the other line. Of course, we'll have to see what really actually comes through.
There
Yeah.
was a question actually that they answered regarding hybridization. 17. Or basically what they say is a lot of time and effort was put into the construction of the trees to encourage spending points in trees you did not specialize in. The new system should offer various forms of hybridization to explore. So they're not getting rid of hybrids, like, utterly. I think was a slight misunderstanding there, but it will be. You won't be able to be everything in like 2 or 3 roles like you can now. I think that's what they're getting at.
Assuming they limit the number of points, unlike the War Steed trees, which are nothing
Yeah.
like that.
I think they're definitely going to do that, Andang, because early on they said they're going to make you make some choices. So you're going to have
Yeah.
to figure out where to spend those points.
Yeah, and one thing I wish they'd do with the War Steeds is either increase the number of skills you have or limit the number of points you have, because it's just a little ridiculous. So
I think we might be getting more War Steed skills with Helm's Deep.
I
Yeah,
hope
most
so.
likely.
And then I hope they do that and then just keep the points right where they're at, or move them up a lot slower or something.
Yeah. With regards to other interesting questions, I thought, for me personally at least, question 4 is one. Talks about revamping combat animations. Basically what they're saying is some of them were identified as being way too long. Especially on my captain, they feel really sluggish compared to other classes. They use the champion as an example, but on the captain especially, it feels really slow. So I think trimming some of those animations will make the combat feel a lot more, a bit more flowing.
And they've done that before, because I think on a few updates ago they actually shortened some of the Lore Master animations also.
Yes, they did. Yes, staff strike and staff sweep especially. More extreme, I think, was with the Reaver on creep side, with Rise of Rohan, because before then it was really slow, but after it's very much quicker.
Yeah. And then with question 3, they did say that you'll earn a point every other level, which I think is a good way to keep the old system of having, a new skill every other level. Assuming that let's say you put like 3 points into each skill, then that works out to about the 20 skills you have. So it seems to work out as far as math goes.
It means that the level 2 quests that you get in Archit and Thorin's Gate are going to have to be changed a little bit to teach you all about this.
It'd be really funny if they forget about that, and then there's all these new players that can't complete quests that are trying to get to level 10, but they can't.
So, Andy, you mentioned the 20 skills. That's one that people had a lot of opinion about.
Yes.
Yeah,
And,
that's probably the biggest
let's
thing.
go ahead, and what we do before anybody starts talking, let's allow each person to talk uninterrupted about their opinions on the 20 skills, and then we'll have everyone, then we'll get in debate and talk as a whole, if that sounds good with everybody. So let's start with Brax.
Okay, yeah, I'm on the spot. So I'm kind of taking a wait and see approach. I had a couple people comment on my my little summarization bullet point article on LOTRO players about the 20 skills who are very, very much against it already. And the specific person that I'm thinking of used Guild Wars 2 as an example, because they have much fewer skills in that game that they can access at one time. And actually, I agree, because I've played Guild Wars 2, and I don't like the way that the combat works in that game. I know a lot of people like that game, but I thought LOTRO was far superior from a depth and feeling perspective. But having said that, I think that 20 skills, if they're like your active skills, not they call them, I think, fluff skills, like travel skills and things like that, I think 20 skills could work. I think that they could make this work, and they could make them maybe enough like your current skills that it would still feel like Lord of the Rings Online. I'm taking a wait and see approach to the 20 skills. I actually did a little bit of math to try and figure out if that would work. And I think it was 5 or 6 skills that you get as you level up, they said, and maybe if there was 5 or 6 or 7 active skills in each tree and then some fluff skills, that would actually work, I think. You're going to have enough in each tree, and who knows, they may, in the tree, they may even have passive skills and some skills that just increase the critical hits of skills that you already have and stuff like that. So I think that that could work.
Okay, Athelros?
Well, I mean, being someone who plays on Creepside a lot, it is kind of relevant. I actually decided to take a look at my creeps after this Twitter chat. I looked at the number of skills each of them had, and my highest ranked creeps were rank 8. They had about, one had 21 and one had 24. So, and I obviously have an experience of playing on them. Both of them, they don't feel, in terms of active skills, neither of them felt wrong having that few compared to my Lawmaster, for instance, who had about double that. And yet both of them feel fine when I'm playing them in, like, using them in combat. So I don't think the number of skills will make it a problem, personally. I think it might be a bit jarring for people who are used to having, 3 quick slots worth or more of skills and buttons to push. So.
Okay, Pineleaf?
I don't think that I have ever been able to remember more than 20 skills that I've got on any of my characters. Whenever I get into the higher levels, I start to get lost trying to say, all right, is this skill? There are some skills that I just can't find immediately, and as I get 40 or 50 skills into my quick slot bars, it's harder and harder to place them so that I can find them quickly. So the number of skills we've got now, I just think, are way, way too many. And giving us a choice so that we could decide which 20 odd skills that we need and we expect to do in our play style, because a lot of the skills that we have currently are going to be available. It's just that we get to choose which 20 fit our play style. So I think it'll work, and I think I'll more easily be able to keep up with the skills that are in there that I can do presently. Now, I have leveled every single class to cap, so I'm in some way familiar with getting lost, especially when I go from class to class and going back and forth, because I go for this class, then to this class, and to this class. I can't remember 40 skills for every single class.
Okay, Mist?
Hello. My view on skills is I'm not sure. I'm taking a sort of wait sort of look at it, like Brax. I've just gotten used to all my skills on my minstrel, which is saying something, because I'm one of the people that have all their bars full, blah, 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 blah. And I have to admit that half of them I probably wouldn't use more than once or twice every few months when we play. What I am not looking forward to is choosing whether or not to have my minstrel with only healing skills or attacking skills. What I have to do to get a good balance of both, because my minstrel often plays alone, but when in groups is a healer. So yeah, I'm interested to see, and I think cutting back the skills is a good idea if it means that as further expansions come out, we get the ability to get more skills, better skills, but I'm just not sure how it's going to work. So, and as long as we get to keep all our pets, including our Sabertooth, on the Lawmaster, I'll be happy.
Oh,
I
just
wouldn't
to
mind
add,
getting rid of that one.
yeah, just to add one thing concerning the matter you spoke of, you are allowed to design more than one trait tree and switch between them.
Yeah,
We
well,
don't know what
see,
the specifics are of that yet, but they do know that everyone will get two trait lines they could specify, and that you could buy additional sets, of course, in the store.
How they described it seemed to be exactly the same as in your War Steed. So you get two free sets, and then you have the option to buy more in the store if you want them.
Yep. Back to the 20 skills real quick. I think that this is almost a have-to kind of thing. We have, we have so many skills that literally some classes just cannot fit them anymore on their bar. And we saw with Riders of Rohan that we only got one new skill and two upgrades. That's not going to be fun moving forward. Only getting a few new skills each expansion and just upgrades and leaving it at that. And so, for one thing, I'm really glad that they're redoing all the classes, making them interesting again, and actually doing another revamp, which is something that's been a long time coming, I think. I think the last time they did a somewhat major revamp was with Isengard, so that's been a little bit of time. And the main thing is I just want to have the ability to actually earn new skills while I level. I'm glad that they're doing the one point every other level so that you can earn stuff that way, and hopefully they'll continue to really make the classes awesome with each expansion with this new system.
Yeah, wasn't it fun when you were like level 10 and lower, and every time you went to the trainer you got a new skill, and then it just started getting disappointing when you would go and there'd be nothing there for you?
Yeah, I remember
like
it. I
every
think
5 minutes when you get a new level. Yeah, those were good days.
I mean, I originally started when we used to have passives to buy as well, like small stat boosts, and then they took those away, and then you start off with like a skill every level, or then a skill every 2 levels, and then like every 3 or 4, and then it just becomes less and less frequent and less exciting to level up.
Yeah, it was really exciting when they had those every other level, and then up until I'd say, I guess with the legendary traits, so around level 50, it starts to slow down a little bit. And then you get a few more towards 60, but after level 60, it's like that's the end of our character development pretty much. And we just get some nice perks as we move forward. But the trait side of things is done. And so I'm glad they're redoing things, if nothing else, to make the cap be our best shining moment and not have it be at level 60 and then some new stuff along the way.
Yeah, that is definitely something I can agree with, and it's kind of a major problem I had with our current trait system, which a lot of people understandably seem to love, is that it stops. You can't really do any more with it because, it's just stagnant, I suppose. If Turbine added more slots, then there'd be less choices to make because you could just add every trait you want in there and be done with it. Or if they added more traits, then you've got too many to choose from, So I think the system as it is just can't go anywhere, so it really needed to go, I think, in the end.
So the 20 number brings up a couple questions for me that I haven't heard too many people ask yet. First of all, if you're going to have fewer skills, are they going to adjust the cooldowns on those skills to be lower so that you're not sitting around waiting for something to pop? And the second question, and then I'll let you guys weigh in on that, is how fast are they expecting this to get 20 skills on our bar? And once we get there, what happens then? Because I can't imagine they're going to wait for us to hit level 65 or 75 before we've got 20 skills.
Yeah, I'd imagine that they mentioned that they're changing the way the animations work, so I'd imagine that involves getting rid of a lot of the induction times. I'd be really surprised if they kept all the inductions the same. You just have to change them. If they don't change them, then they're making a mistake, and they can hopefully change that once they get feedback of how terrible it is that they made that decision. But I hope that they change the induction time so that you can actually be using your skills. And the MMO industry as a whole is moving towards less induction type skills and more quick combat like shown in ESO and some other things. So I'd be surprised if they don't take away the inductions.
Just remember concerning the 20 is not a hard, fast number. That's an approximation on how many people will be setting up their trees, and based on how quickly they go through their trees and things like that.
Yeah,
Right,
they
right.
said, I think it was a rough number, so it could be under or over depending on your class and specialization.
Understood,
I think,
but I still think we'd have 20 by the time we get to level 35 or so, and then maybe some improved versions of those, or maybe skills that even supersede older skills. I don't know.
Right. Well, let's say it works like the War Steed system, just for sake of argument. Let's say it's exactly like the War Steed system. You don't have to invest all 3 points into that skill before you can unlock a new one later on down the line. I'd imagine it'd work a similar way where you can, go down the tree pretty rapidly, and then later on you upgrade everything to make yourself really awesome.
yeah,
But, we haven't seen it yet, so there's no real way of knowing.
yeah, I think the only thing I have to compare it to is the tree system in Star Wars: The Old Republic, which people will think that's blasphemy mentioning it, but that is kind of the way they do it there, where a lot of the traits or things you can select have multiple tiers, so you can buy like the first tier and then move on to the next level, or if you buy a certain amount of points or invest a certain amount of points in that tree section, you can keep moving down and down, so you don't have to fully invest in each layer before you can move to the next one, which I think is what you mean, right?
Yeah, so I'd estimate so the cap's like at 95. So I'd estimate by around say 65 or so is when you get the majority of your skills, and then you have to start investing heavier to get your cap skills in the different areas. Would be my guess. It seems the most logical way to do it.
Well, let's see. Yes, unfortunately, logic and game development don't always go hand in hand.
That's right.
We'll have to see.
Well, so in the current game, you're around level 45 when you start unlocking your legendaries. I wonder if they're going to keep that similar.
I hope not. I feel like we get too awesome too quickly, and then it kind of peters out. I hope that they keep the awesomeness continuing on and allow it to be at the end when you're like, okay, now I'm at my peak. And with each expansion, they modify it to where at the end you're at your peak.
Well, if they do that, then they're going to have to make an adjustment to the power curve in skirmishes, because the current power curve assumes you're going to be getting your legendary traits in the early 40s.
Yeah, there's so much stuff that they're going to have to change with this, and it'll be interesting to see if they model huge battles, if they have that same peak there or not, and they're going to have to do a lot of testing for sure.
Especially with considering LIs, which that's going to take a whole pretty much strip down and redo in terms of legacies and such, because new skills and the skills might work differently. That's going to be a lot of work to do.
And with each class getting 3 different trait lines, that could really change the way that it works as well, because there's essentially now 3 classes for each one class, and so getting them all balanced to where they all do things at the same level range is going to be really challenging, I think. Especially
definitely,
early on.
because a lot of the classes we currently have, it's like they usually have 1 or 2 good solid trait lines, and then a third which is kind of like a shriveled up old, I don't know, tumor.
Kind of got lost in that one, didn't you?
Yeah. I didn't know where to go with it, but things like the Lawmaster's blue line, or the Hunter's yellow line, or the Burglar's yellow line, I suppose.
The Chancellor's yellow line. Yellow line seems to be the one that is usually the one that's the least useful.
Runekeeper's all fancy and doesn't have that one, but or wrong, but yeah, those sort of lines that don't see much use.
Yeah, so hopefully they'll make each line have really, really awesome stuff at the end, because right now that's not necessarily the case. So it'll be exciting to see what they do with that.
Very well. Now, one thing I note is, of course, we still don't know when when Helm's Deep is to be released, and we still don't know when beta starts. But they did take down the page in the forums for the Bull Roar server, which implies that they are starting to get it ready for beta. I don't know. Does anyone remember how long it was between they took down the forums last time and the time when they started beta?
I don't remember last week.
Yeah, I have never paid attention to that.
I thought it was something like 2 months, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I think that's how long the beta lasted. But I mean between the time
Usually
taking down
they-
Bull Roar and starting the beta.
Usually they take it down right before E3 week, and then usually the expansion comes out in September. So that's from June to September is usually the period that there's no content on the beta unless you're involved in it. So that's like what, 4 months or so?
Well, 3 months about.
3 months. So let's just assume that we're about 3 months out then, I guess.
Christmas release date.
Yep, I'm still pulling for it coming out this year. But the thing is, with ESO going sub-model, I think that they really don't have any competition for the foreseeable future. As far
So
as
they
like an
can
MMO
afford
that's
to-
really going to steal it away from them. WildStar kind of, but it went with the sub-model as well, and that's
Yeah,
taken
they
out a lot of excitement.
Yeah.
So.
It certainly did. As soon as I heard it's going, as someone who's committed to Lord of the Rings Online like I am, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to spend a sub on a game which I'm going to be spending maybe a third of my time on.
Yeah.
I think, given that we still haven't heard that much about Helm's Deep, I think the earliest the expansion will be is October, and that's a very early estimate.
Yeah. I'd be surprised if it comes out before November, but I'd be surprised if it slips beyond this year.
We shall see. Anyone else have anything to add on the matter of the about the dev chat?
I'm still reading through them a little bit. Anybody else have anything else to add?
I've
Just in
talked too
general.
much already.
So I guess just a general comment. I'm always, I'm surprised the community, especially if you pay any attention to the forums at all, which I don't a lot, but I'm surprised by some of the angst that is kind of portrayed out there by people. I wanted to kind of make the point, I guess, that it was almost a year ago that Riders of Rohan was released, and it seems like everybody's forgotten how awesome that expansion was. I mean, we had mounted combat, we had the pending loot bag, which we didn't have before. Open tapping was brand new. The auto bestowed quest, which they never did before. Character experience for crafting, which they never had before. These are all things that Turbine got right with the last expansion, and they were all gameplay mechanic tweaks or major gameplay mechanic changes that they put in place, and that's why I'm kind of optimistic about what's going on here. And also, the other point I wanted to make was I don't want to be playing the same game a year from now that I am today. I want it to be changing and evolving so that I can stay interested in it.
I think, yeah, you definitely hit on a point there. And I think the most consistent complaint that some of the people, I mean, in the forum seem to have was that they didn't like that LOTRO was changing so much. And I think that's what it comes down to is a lot of people seem to be settled here and they don't like, I think even more than usual for MMOs, they don't like the game changing around them too much. And this is a pretty drastic change.
I think part of it is that, first of all, we're really tied to our characters. We've been with them, from 1 to 85. That's a really long way to be playing the game a certain way on a character. I think the other thing is that they're allowing this change to come in, and that seems, they're judging it before it's too early. Is my main thing. That it's really surprising that there's all this anger already, and they don't know anything about the system still. I think part of the problem is that we don't know anything about Helm's Deep at all yet. Aside from the big battles that came out last week, this is the first thing that they came out with that is any type of news. I think that's a big thing that's causing a lot of anger, because we haven't really gotten excited about Helm's Deep yet. We just heard about all these changes that they're going to completely be changing the class, and then it's just part of the problem, I think, as well, is that the war steeds have so much lag and have been so buggy, and you're allowed to put all your points into the tree, that people don't really like the trait trees as much because you can fully invest in them. I think that's actually probably a big point.
Yeah. Well, I think that the biggest point is, let's face it, on the forums, they like to complain.
Yeah. One other thing is that, our character has basically been the same since Isengard when they did the last class revamps. We didn't really get that much new stuff with Rohan. And so our characters haven't changed at all really for 2 years. That's, people have really gotten used to their characters for 2 years now. It's a big change to be making when you've played your character that long, and then all of a sudden everything's going to be changing.
Yeah, but I think Turbine's aware of that. They don't want this game to not feel like LOTRO when they get done. They know that, even after Rohan and all those mechanic changes last year in mounted combat, it still felt like Lord of the Rings Online when they got done.
Right. I'm in full support of these changes, but I'm just saying I'm pretty sure that's why people think that way, is all those reasons.
Yeah, see, I think change is good as long as it doesn't take away from the game. So I'm all for it, really. Like, change. It's as good as a holiday, and we can have all new characters. But I think change is good, and I think Turbine's got the right idea. It's just whether or not it conveys through after they do their changes, and that's what we need to wait and see.
So do you think there's a communication issue, Andang? You kind of alluded to the fact that we hadn't heard much, and maybe this wasn't the right information to start with.
Well, I think part of the problem is that they just can't give enough on this system to show people what it's really going to be like, because it's still in the concept stage. Pretty sure it's still in the concept stage.
I think it's beyond the concept stage. I think they have to be coding most of it.
Well, I mean,
now.
they're coding it and stuff, but it's still not. It's still nowhere near finalized. They can change the 20 skills at the flip of a hat for how much it actually is. I think that's part of it, is that they just can't show it yet, and so players just hear it being described, and it took 41 questions, and we still don't know that much about it, to be honest. I think that's part of the problem, is that some people read it with fear instead of reading it with, well, we don't really know yet.
Yeah, I think personally, something that would have really helped, and they might disagree on how well it would work, but just something like a simple screenshot of the trait tree in progress, like just showing how it looks and just the rough idea of it. Obviously, it wouldn't be complete because obviously they're still designing it, but just something for people to look and say, okay, that's kind of what we were looking at here, rather than looking at a black screen. And obviously, you don't know what you're looking at. All you can do is use your imagination, and that could kind of conjure up some scary stuff.
Yeah, I think even like a sketch on a piece of paper, or like they showed the early war steed trait trees back in the day, that looked nothing like what they do now, but it was still helpful because it had the main idea there. So
yeah, some kind of visual aid.
And I think another major problem is the fact that we don't know how long induction times are going to be and all that stuff, and so that's fearing people a lot, especially induction-heavy classes where, you really need more than just 20 skills. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. I think something I did notice is that the people on the classes that seem to be worried the most are the ones that are considered multi-role in essence. rather than the ones that like Runekeepers. They are top tier DPS or top tier healing.
Yeah, the ones
So they
that
don't really
are
have room for utility. But ones like the Lawmaster, which does lots of different things, or the Captain that does lots of different things, if they go down one role, say healing, then how well are they going to be suited for that other utility stuff? With only 20 odd skills, they're going to have to give up something from what they have now.
Yeah, that's true, but I think they can still do it to where, you're more healing focused, but you still have those couple, they're not just going to make you just a healer. I think that's some of the fears people have been having, but they're going to make sure that you still have enough DPS to get through stuff and all that stuff. But people have been a little bit more afraid than what they need to be for sure.
All right, anybody else have anything they wish to add on this subject before we go on? Very well, let's see what the other news is. First off, there were some minor adjustments to the community site. The first thing is that the auto log off changed from 45 minutes to 6 hours. So that should take care of most people's complaints about having to type in something every 45 minutes in order to keep from being logged off.
I'll never understand why they have it in the first place, but yeah, sure.
Right.
6 hours is a reasonable time to be logged off, I think.
Okay. They updated the lottery page some, and this is actually one of my favorite because now you have the lottery page so that you can go in there when you're logged off and still see whether or not there are any lotteries.
Which sometimes they have a ton of lotteries, and so I think it might be a little overwhelming. I hope that they allow you to log in to where you can only... Have they mentioned if you can log in and it'll just show yours?
It will always show all of the lotteries that are available because too many people have been complaining about there being no lotteries. It turned out that their character just wasn't eligible for any of them.
Right.
So
I hope that they can allow like a checkbox or something to turn it on or off.
There isn't currently anything like that. You may
Yeah.
put that into a suggestions box at some point like that, but
Well, Turbine, who's clearly listening to this podcast, I'm putting it into that suggestion box right now.
I have a feeling though it's not going to be on the top of their list at the moment.
I made it on the top of their list. They got mentioned on our show.
There were a few test lotteries over the last week. None of the really serious ones, but there were a few test lotteries, one or two of them. I had one character win one of them, which was just some silver.
It was interesting what they were testing too. It seemed like they were testing. One of them was just for level 85, so it seems like they can do level-specific lotteries now. That's probably what they were trying to do.
Well, yeah, because I think they've always been able to do them at only cap, because I've had lotteries in the past that were only available to the cap level.
Well, but they were testing it on the new system, right?
Yeah,
Right.
In fact, what they did is they tested one of the two lotteries they had at the time was at the cap, and the other one was at 1 to 10. So
It's
they
just
wanted to
general
test the
testing
two
in
extremes.
general.
Yeah, general
Right,
testing
right.
and testing the two extremes.
Yeah.
All right, the next thing is that Turbine is slowly revealing an image of their concept art for Helm's Deep on their Facebook page. Now, they said that they'll only be updating this on weekdays.
Yeah, they said once a week, didn't they?
No, they just said
week.
weekdays.
Okay,
And the
that's
first one
kind of weird.
Yeah, so the first one was on a Friday, so therefore there won't, the next couple of days there won't be any, but then I don't know how often in a week they'll be doing it. I guess we'll find that out next week.
What I got from it was it'd be once per weekday, so Monday to
Okay.
Friday they would update it 5 times.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's really weird, though, that it's such a small image. You'd think they'd just say, okay, we're going to release 15 images and release them full size.
No, I think it's one image that they're going to slowly reveal.
Yeah, I
the
know what
full
it
image.
is. I'm just saying I think it's kind of weird that they're doing it that way instead of releasing it? Because each one's an individual part. It's not like a picture of a whole thing, is it?
I thought it is.
Oh, well, okay.
We will see.
I think you're right,
But
Andy. I think it's an individual part of a bigger picture, but they're just dragging it.
Yeah.
You know, they're dragging it along.
Yeah.
They're
Of course.
it's
slowly
teasing,
Yeah,
basically.
you've got to remember, Sapiens is the ultimate tease.
Him and his
That's true.
Zoom.
That's true, with all his soons and whatnot.
I mean, looking at the fraction of an image, it seems to be just a concept out of the Battle of Helm's Deep itself. From what I can tell, that is the Hornburg and
Yeah.
the Horn Tower thing at the top.
Yes. Well, when they said Helm's Deep, I was assuming that they meant the Hornburg.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Now, this weekend, which some of you may be hearing this after it's over, there's a plus 100% experience bonus. And based on my experience on seeing how things went, especially how fast my burglar was able to go through the last 10 levels, it looks like it's both for monsters and quests.
That's
So
good.
so if you want to level a character this weekend, then this was the weekend to be doing it because they're going through the levels very, very quickly. But of course, if you want to avoid leveling, hopefully you have a character at Capor who has one of those tortoise stones. Sales this week.
It'd be interesting if Turbine starts releasing these XP weekends and people actually like trying to force people to buy that one stone. Kind of backwards from normal.
All right. Sales this week. The free sample is 100% crafting XP bonus, CRFT1. Shared wardrobe space is 25% off, which I bought as soon as I was able to. Clothing, cloaks, and accessories, 25% off. In other words, anything to do with cosmetics seems to be. Cosmetic outfit slots, 25% off. Mounted combat trait specs, okay, that's a little bit of an outlier there. That's 25% off. I would have hoped it would have been instead the mounted combat dyes and cosmetic outfits. I would have loved that to have been on sale. And then Warsteed cosmetic slots, 25% off. And all class mounts are currently available.
Interesting. That's good that they're allowing that back.
But those aren't on sale. Those are just available.
Yeah, that's just available. That they put the list of steeds that are available on the sales page.
They very, very, very rarely have the class steeds on sale.
Yeah, usually the only way you get those on sale is when there's a pick your on sale weekend. That's usually just around Christmas and maybe during the anniversary. All right, let's go on to LOTRO players.
There's still the map that got leaked to talk about, right?
I have that in LOTRO players.
Oh, okay.
Because I heard that from LOTRO players. I did not hear that officially from
Well, why don't we
Turbine,
start
so
there?
That's true.
All right, we'll start there. All right, right.
That was Sure's, I think.
Oh yeah, sure. Yes.
Oh, right, yeah. So basically, over on a website called Contains Moderate Peril, they do a podcast on various MMOs, including LOTRO. They were reporting on someone who had managed to dig up some what appeared to be leaked incomplete maps for Helm's Deep. If you look at the article there, it's they show some of them partially complete. They look like they're almost finished. All the artwork and stuff is there, and then there's some that still have the whole grid on it. So basically what I did is I took the biggest map, which is the one looking at the whole expansion area, and added some labels of the various sections, and as well as some various points of interest that people might be interested in looking at. Major lore areas and such. And then later on, during that same day, I think, or the day after, someone managed to dig up a similar incomplete map of East Rohan. And basically what they did is they merged the two maps together to create one map of, well, the bulk of Rohan aside from Wildemore, obviously. And I think looking at it, it's a good way of looking at the size of the zone compared to what we have now.
Yeah, I think that that's actually by far the most interesting map, is the one that actually, to where it really allows you to be able to see the size of this new area. And it honestly looks at least the same size, if not a little bit bigger, than the other part of Rohan.
Yeah. So I suppose the two main questions is what parts or various parts of the upcoming map are most interesting to you, and what do you think about the overall size of the zone?
One thing that we were talking about earlier, Etheros, was that we thought it was interesting because we hadn't really looked at a map of Rohan, I guess. But it's interesting how close Helm's Deep is to Isengard compared with where Edoras is. Helm's Deep is moving almost towards Isengard. Actually, it's quite a ways towards Isengard. So that was something I thought was pretty interesting.
Maybe this is just me being stupid and not doing any research before, but for some reason I thought Edoras was beyond the gates that were just on the other side of the Entwash that we could already see. But obviously they instanced us into Edoras at the end of the last epic, so that looks like we covered a lot of ground in that instance.
Edoras is a ways down there, yeah, but you should be able to see it that far away. It's just a long way away.
Edoras is a big city, and it's up on the rocky outcropping as well. So we would be able to see it from where we are, especially considering the improved draw distance they put in.
And then, based on this map, Shurs, you actually counted the number of squares that Edoras is compared with other cities. If you want to talk about that a little bit.
Well, yeah, this is obviously just a rough consideration of size, but looking at the top-down view of Edoras, it's about roughly 15 squares in area. Looking at Snowbourne, for example, it's about 5 or 6 at most.
Mm-hmm.
And considering that Snowbourne is arguably the biggest city we have in East Rohan, that's quite a big difference.
Wow,
it could possibly be the biggest city we've seen since
ever. It should be the largest city that we've seen so far in all of Middle-earth, which is really exciting to finally be able to go to a really big city. Also, possibly a lot of lag. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And then one other thing that you mentioned was that the Paths of the Dead is on the map.
Yes, and that's something I actually didn't really expect.
Well, we might get only an entrance to the Paths of the Dead, but we might not be able to go into them perhaps until the epic that continues between expansions.
Yeah, we definitely won't be going in there until after Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli do.
Yeah, that'd be extremely lore-breaking even if we go at the same time. Unless it's a session play, I'd be surprised if we go anywhere near that place until long after they go through.
Well, not long afterwards, because if it was too long afterwards, the war would be over.
But there really shouldn't be, too much there after they leave. So I don't really know what they're going to be able to do with that area. It's just interesting that it's on the map, I guess.
Well, that's the perfect place for some kind of a dungeon, though, isn't it?
Well, that's the problem, really. The dead there, you can't really be harmed by anyone except Aragorn.
Well, yeah, but there wasn't supposed to be anybody in Moria either.
Lots of
kind
orcs.
of. Moria's a little bit different. But it would make more sense for Moria, I think, than this. Unless there's like some creatures that are there as well. But as far as undead goes, there shouldn't be any there unless we're gonna have a suicide wish or something.
Yeah, I think it'd be actually pretty funny if we are able to go in there, but the dead there have like an insta-kill ability, or they can't be hurt by us.
That would be interesting, I guess.
Most likely, they might do something which they did in others. For example, in the instance at the end of book 2, I think it is, where you have to go and you face all those oath breakers, where very often they have a very you defeat them, they rest for 1 or 2 moments, and then they come back up to full strength.
Yeah, I remember that. And these are the same dead after all, aren't they?
Some of them are the exact same creatures.
They are. They're supposed to be the exact same from the same thing, but
Well,
still,
yeah.
it
Well, they're
doesn't.
not all the same because there will be
Right.
some. I think that was only a sub splinter group from them.
It
Yeah,
was,
they're people who fled.
but still, it doesn't really make sense either way.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes a lot less sense at the Paths of the Dead than anywhere else, I would say.
Yeah.
Because
We
that's
will have to
somewhere
see
that's
what they do.
so described as being, a certain way that only Aragorn can and all that stuff. So,
Yes, but you have to guess that people are going to go in there, and Turbine is going to try to find a way to do it.
yeah, so more power to him, I guess.
Very well. Now, my little thing is, I do notice that there are 5 areas that look like that they could be writings in here, because Helm's Deep, I won't consider that to be a writing, but it looks like there are 5 zones other than that, and that fits the number of remaining banners that when you're in the Edoras instance.
That
The
is interesting.
Yes, because I
Really?
noticed that.
Pine Leaf,
Yes,
that's a ton of digging there.
because I noticed this because I counted the number of flags and that there were 2 copies the of the Rohan proper one, and I believe there were 10 others. Now, number 4, there were 4 in the Rohan expansion. Wildemore was the 5th, and so there are 5 left to be here. I didn't know if they were going to include all 5 here, or if the 10th one was going to be in the next area like they did with Wildemore.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Interesting to note that of these writings, only 2 of them are officially Tolkien. The other 3 seem to have been made up by Turbine to suit the purposes of the story.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if these are complete names either, because some of them look a bit strange.
Like stone beans.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does look a little strange. Yes.
Yes, and before anyone says it, no, that's not just me misreading it. That was definitely an N. It wasn't stone beams, which would have made a bit more sense, but I don't understand it.
Yeah, and this map's technically not officially approved by Turbine, so you never know.
Yes, it could theoretically all be a complete fabrication, but looking at how legit it is compared to the previous one, which proved to be right, I don't think it is.
It's pretty detailed to be made up.
Oh, people have been known to go rather intricately into hoaxes at times, but yeah, I have a feeling it's most likely the real map.
Yeah. The thing that interested me the most, I think, on the far west side, is that it shows the Fords of Isen on this side of the map.
Yeah, because it includes the Westfold.
Yeah, which begs the question, is this going to be, are we going to have a loading screen between this side of the zone and then the other side in the Gap of Rohan? Or will we finally have no loading screen between, this side of Eridor and LOTRO and that part of the map?
Yeah.
For Fellowship Walk purposes, I hope not.
But pity
Walk.
the poor folk who try. Pity the poor person who tries to cross the ford from a level 75 zone into a level 95 zone.
Yes.
While still level 75.
But that's no different than in Bree, where there was the Western Hills or whatever that were 45 back in the day.
Well, yes, you do have a little point there, or of course crossing from Eregion into Enedwaith.
That was the first time I saw a purple level enemy was in those western hills in the back in the old days.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they're still in there.
I suppose you can use Eregion and Enedwaith as another example of that, because Eregion stops at level 50-ish, and then
Yeah.
Enedwaith picks up at level 61, 62.
Yep.
Yeah, and when they first released Enedwaith, it was even worse because it started out at level 65 originally.
But I mean,
Yeah.
when you're going there, you're not wanting to go. There's not a Rohan waiting. There's an Enedwaith waiting as opposed to a Moria. Everyone wants to go to Moria. They don't want to go to Enedwaith. Here, it might be a little tempting for people to go to Rohan. So
I want to see Helm's Deep.
exactly.
Yeah, considering, look at the map, it is very close.
And I try to stay out of Moria. I'm in no rush to go there.
Well, yes, there is that. Now, also from this week, we had Sig started a new series called Dear Sig, where he is giving you nice advice answers, obviously from a dwarven point of view.
Yeah, I wouldn't advise taking Sig's advice.
That's your advice.
I could have my own column.
Yes, there are one or two of his answers which one wondered. For example, have me a question from an elf who was asking, "How do I grow a beard?"
Or any of the beer answers.
Any of the beer answers.
Which was almost all of them.
Yep.
Right.
Which is fitting for a dwarf, but.
We also have a new podcast coming to LOTRO players, LOTROcast. Now, could you tell me about that, Andang?
Yes, we're super excited to be bringing Albaros and LOTROcast onto LOTROplayers.com. He did put an announcement post up finally. We'd actually been working with him before LOTRO Players even launched, but because he's been so extremely busy with work, he hasn't been able to make any episodes even of his own podcast, let alone start moving them over. So he is going to be releasing a new episode soon. It is going to be released on our site and possibly his old site while he's still trying to figure out how to move things over. But eventually he'll be fully on to LOTROplayers.com, which is really exciting because I believe he's the oldest. LOTROcast is the oldest podcast that's still going. MMO Reporter might be older. I'm not sure because the original LOTROcast podcasts from like 20-something before all got corrupted and lost to time. So I don't know for sure which one started first.
You mean it's corrupted like the old force is corrupted?
No, it's corrupted like Western Rohan is until it comes out.
Oh,
And some things that should not have been forgotten were lost.
Yes,
all right.
that's the
Yes.
perfect quote there. Yeah.
Very well. Brax.
Anyway, we're really excited. So.
Yeah. All right. Brax, you have some updates to your travel guides?
Yeah, I have all three starter areas stable diagrams out there now, and I got some really good reader feedback on the original Breland diagram, so I went back and revamped that one with the feedback that folks have gotten me. I wanted to thank everybody who is working with me to make these diagrams more readable and usable. So if you haven't checked it out, what I've done is I've made it look more like the actual map, so the stable squares in my diagram are about where they are on the map in relation to one another. So that was throwing some people off when I had, maybe Adso's camp was on the far right side of the diagram or something.
Yeah, that was a little confusing.
Yeah, so I think maybe this is going to help people, and I've also visually differentiated the swift travel routes from the normal travel routes. So go ahead and check those out. If you have any more feedback, let me know, and I'd be happy to incorporate stuff that makes sense into these diagrams so that people can use them.
Okay, what about the
Awesome.
cases where there are both swift and normal travel routes?
I should have a line for each one of those.
Okay, it's just that there's
Cool.
so few of those that are in both of them in Breeze. When you get to the later ones, I guess where that's more common.
Right. It's because those will have different costs associated with them too.
Very well. All right. Now for donations this week, Joe Ursick would like to say hello. He's given us a really nice donation, and he didn't give us any more of a message, but we would just like to thank him for giving us a nice donation here at LOTRO Players. Now, if you would like to get a mention, then you could donate to us by pressing the donate button on the upper right side of the page. For $5, you get a mention on the LOTRO Players podcast of your choice, while for $10, you get a mention on all our current podcasts, which, if we are already counting LOTRO Cast, is 7 by my count.
He's not counted yet. We'll see what moves on from there. I haven't
Right.
talked about that yet because he hasn't got an episode on our site technically yet.
Right.
So, but he is planning to possibly be doing that. So we'll see in the future.
At some point in the future, right. But you will get mentioned on LOTRO Players News, Fellowship of the Creeps, Through the Palantir, Unexpected Vidcast, LOTRO Academy, and Lily Kate's Small LOTRO Adventures, and perhaps someday in the future we may be including LOTRO Cast. Now, Mist, I think you have something about a walk?
Oh, yes. Been doing a lot of walking. But I do believe you're referring to the Fellowship Walk, which is happening with a kick-off of Frodo's birthday party on the 22nd of September this year. Sometimes in my emails I put last year, but really it's this year, so people don't get confused. I'm confused enough for the whole of Middle-earth, believe me. But currently I'm doing a stock take of all our little goodies and things that we have, and I'll be posting a stock take count on LOTRO Players soon, so everyone can see what we've got organised to keep them fed and drunk, obviously, and all the rest of it. So yeah, it should be good.
Yeah, I do have to say that it is absolutely amazing the amount of stuff that they are creating. It's just amazing. I can't wait to see the actual numbers to see just how much stuff that they've created in the last few weeks. Real quick, I would like to mention that Shipwreck from LOTRO Beneath Your Feet did come out with a new article called Comb, Archit, and Staddle, where he went through those. He has finished re-releasing his audio podcast this last week and is now moving in heavily into the article front and plans to release those every couple weeks.
Very well. Anyone else have anything else they wish to add?
Yeah, I would like to just endorse those from Shipwreck. I love reading through those Beneath Your Feet articles.
Yeah, they are awesome.
Very well. Thank you for listening today, and this is Pine Leaf Needles. And until next time, remember to skirmish responsibly. Thank you for listening.
Have
Good night,
fun.
everybody.
Bye.